Entrepreneurship, got that inspiration. Yeah, now I'm just doing it. Working on these projects, my ideas I'm pursuing. No matter what the problem, the solution, I'm proving it. Let's talk about it and open up the dialogue. Contractors telling their stories about how they got it started and how they keep it going. The passion fuels the mission. Now we blasting into orbit, we gone. That's where we grow from. Started with the vision, make the pitch and knock it out the park like home runs. We keep it moving, self-belief, no doubt. Pass off the mic to my man's Jim Cloud. I don't wanna stop for nothing.
Jim Cloud here on Contractor Stories with Bob Muller. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Jim. Hey, great to be here. I'm so happy for another episode of Contractor Stories. I think that today is going to be another great story ahead. I think with a man like AC in the house today, I think our guests or at least our listeners are going to have a great story to be told.
Yeah, AC Lockyer, I've known him for some time. He has quite a story. I've heard his story a number of times personally, and I can't wait to get him here on the program. I've wanted him on for some time.
Yeah, no, I think so. Maybe we're going to hear something you haven't heard before. Let's see if we can dig something out of that.
Hopefully. Let's go out to him now.
All right, sounds great.
Jim Cloud here on Contractor Stories with my friend Bob Muller. Bob, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, Jim. Great morning. Can't wait to get into the story of AC today. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, our friend AC Lockyer is here. AC, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Yeah, just blessed.
Yeah, we're all blessed, I think. Every day I wake up, when I see my breath on the mirror, I'm like, I'm blessed again. Here I am today again. So we're going to talk.
Woke up on the right side of the sod.
Exactly. So we're going to talk fishing for the next 45 minutes. So get
all right, let's go.
Get your tackle box out and let's talk. So we may talk a little bit about fishing, but I want to talk to you today, AC, about what you do, what you have been doing, and then we're going to go back in time, and you're going to tell us how you got to where you are today. Now, I like to call you Mr. Soft Wash. I know you're a modest guy, but isn't it fair to say that you really invented or created the soft wash industry as we know it today?
Well, I tell people I didn't invent soft washing because anybody that's taken a 2.5 gallon pump up sprayer and put bleach in there and water and a squirt of dishwashing detergent, that's soft washing. And it's when you're using an agricultural style sprayer to spray chemicals on the building, that the chemicals do the cleaning and no pressure is needed to clean the building. And it was really created as an alternative to pressure washing. And although I did not invent it, I do kind of tell people I'm the patriarch of the industry. I'm the guy that really developed the equipment and developed the industry and made it more mainstream so that a lot of other people could be blessed by and benefit from the creating of a new category, a new technique for cleaning the exterior of buildings.
And that is Soft Wash Systems. Tell us a little bit about the company.
So Soft Wash Systems is a company that helps people go into the soft washing business. And, I was a contractor for 20 years myself, and then I slipped over to what I call the dark side. We started, we became a supplier and started putting people in the business and selling equipment, chemicals, and education. And that went really, really well for a number of years. But what we did is actually just this past year, we moved over to a licensed affiliate program. And so we're not just putting anybody into the soft washing business anymore. We're doing licensed affiliates, which is different than franchising. And we're doing a more select few that we put into the business because we just found that we were really, really, really serious about putting people in these businesses. And then you would get people that were really serious and people that were somewhat serious and people that would buy a piece of equipment and sit in the garage and they didn't want to do the marketing. They didn't want to do the real work to building a business. And so we've just gotten a lot more picky here lately.
Yeah. And I want to thank you for inviting me to your annual conference last January, I believe. Does that sound right?
Yep, January.
I flew down to Orlando and I was a special guest because I know it's really kind of a closed meeting, but I got a sneak peek of the inside of Soft Wash Systems and the team. Everyone's so tightly knit. It's really a close group. Can you talk a little bit about that environment and and how you cultivated that?
Well, so I call it the Church of Bleach.
Okay.
And, so we are, my background is I went to college to become a pastor. I got kicked out of college, so I never got to become a pastor, but I'm very ministerial in the things that I do. So the reason why we're so close is we really do kind of run this thing like a church, and we're a family. We fellowship together, we help each other, we share resources, we encourage each other, we discipleship each other. And it really creates this great environment for people who are feeling entrepreneurial and they want to start a business to come in and, just really have all the tools and resources and support to knock it out of the park. And because we really do it like a church. And in fact, my CEO of Droplet International that I brought in, that's my holding company that owns Soft Wash Systems, he was my pastor for 25 years. Oh. And so when he decided to retire from being a pastor, I talked him into coming in and joining Soft Wash Systems and Droplet International, because it is that type of a thing. It is more than just equipment and chemicals and teaching people how to go out and clean roofs and exteriors. It's really teaching people how to run a business, but more than that, have their priorities right and really focus on why they're doing this thing called business.
Yeah, it is a great culture. I know a number of people who work within your organization who are part of it. And we have also a lot of people in common, Howard Partridge, for instance, and so forth. And so, which is a very similar culture. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, wouldn't you agree Howard's tribe is much like yours?
It is. It really is. And, also the Zig Ziglar tribe, and Howard's a part of the Ziglar organization. It is all very faith-based, and, we come out of a Christian POV, but we have a lot of other religious or religions that do well inside of our organization, because we are a faith-based safe zone. And so even though not everybody in our organization is a Christian, they feel safe because they know that, we're not secular, that we believe that whatever your faith is, that should be the center of your life, and your business and everything else you do should revolve around that. So we end up picking up, some in the Indian culture, the Sikh religion. And, so we've got some people who are even Sikhs in our organization. We have some Jewish people in our organization. And, so it creates a great environment for people to come in and flourish with their individual belief system.
Sure. And I've always said Christian values are what made our country. Even if you're not religious, if you have Christian values, you fit into society, and you don't have to be Christian. You just have to have those values. If not, you may end up in prison. There are even some Christian people in prison, right?
Or divorced.
That happens as well. Okay, AC. So this is where we go into the time machine. We're going to go back to when you were young. Let's go back to around 10 years old. Who was AC as a boy?
Wow. So AC as a boy, not very confident, chubby, low self-esteem, but I was raised by a service business entrepreneur. So I, swept the floors of my dad's business and worked in my dad's business and got a taste of entrepreneurialism. And, so I was always kind of a dreamer, a vision person. Had a lot of big ideas and a lot of plans and a lot of dreams and ideas. Didn't always get to see those to fruition. Not a lot of my friends shared that kind of, very early on in my life, because I had dreams and I had kind of vision for things that I wanted to do, whether it be a tree fort out in the woods. Other kids would kind of get bored after a couple hours, and I'd be out there for 3 weeks building the most incredible tree fort, and I don't know. So yeah, it was, I had friends growing up, but I had very, very few friends growing up, and was not a very popular kid, really.
Interesting. Because you've changed. You're not that person anymore, are you?
Well, I mean, I think the people around me have changed. I haven't changed much, but as people mature and they decide what they want out of life, they're like, hey, maybe I should go hang out with the aggressive dreamer over there to create an opportunity for people and not worry so much about being popular and everybody like me. And so I think people just have that realization that maybe some of the kids that weren't necessarily popular younger are the ones that had a good work ethic and were a little weird because maybe they, had a family that was religious and they went to church and they didn't cuss like everybody else or drink and, and then they, so they were like, as they get older in life, they go, hey, I think I'm going to start hanging out with that person because they're going the same places that I want to go.
Who was the biggest influence in your life, AC, as a child or a young man?
Well, I guess I'm like a lot of kids. My dad was probably the biggest influence in my life, and so I'm sorry. They're washing my windows outside my house, so you might have to go into post and cut this section out, or you can just leave it in. Hey, I got my crews out cleaning my house today, so I use my own product. But like a lot of people, I would have to say that my dad was probably my biggest influence, and it's because I had a dad that was involved in my life. That definitely has given me a leg up in life and in business. He and I spent a lot of time fishing together, and I was in Cub Scouts doing the Pinewood Derby and doing all the kind of the dad kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever I had time off from school, like a school break or a 3-day weekend or something like that, I wasn't just running around the neighborhood on my bicycle, hanging out with my friends. My dad would take me to work.
Yeah.
And so whether I was sweeping the floors at the shop or pressure washing coils on air conditioning units or, whatever I was doing, my dad was mentoring me and training me to go on to do what I'm doing now later in life.
So speaking of that, let's talk about when you first got introduced to using your hands to make money and clean people's homes. When was that?
Well, that was 1991. I was in school at Abilene Christian University out in Abilene, Texas. I was a Bible major. I was wanting to become a minister, a preacher, and just because I was not a school learning type of person, never good at books and stuff like that. Just was not doing well because I didn't like math. I had avoided taking a lot of math classes and didn't go college prep when I was in high school. So I had to take remedial math classes to get to the point where I could start earning credit for my math classes and kind of get past the remedial stuff. And I had flunked fundamentals for algebra 3 times. Oh. Well, when I say flunked, got a D, and you couldn't move on with a D. You had to get a C to get credit for the class. And so the dean of the biblical studies department sat me down and said, hey, AC, we really like you. You got a lot of promise. You're charismatic. You're everything that we want, for somebody to go through Bible school and become a pastor and everything else. He said, but you're just not college material, and you need to stop wasting your daddy's money. So I had proposed to my now wife, Karen. She was my fiance then. And so I was like, well, I've got to get my butt in gear. I got to start a little business. I got to get ready to get married. And so I moved back home to Florida from Abilene, Texas. And on my way back home, back then we didn't have cell phones. Very few people did. So I stopped off at a rest stop, used a payphone, called the house collect, and would do that, every several hours to let my parents know I'm a few more hours down the road. Everything's fine. The truck's working good. Looks like I'm on track to come in at such and such time. And during one of those calls, I said, Dad, I really want to marry Karen. I've proposed to her. She's my fiance now. Do you have an idea for a little business I could start? Because we were entrepreneurs, our family, and done service businesses. And my dad said, Ray, who was our family painter, who painted all my dad's rental properties, he said, Ray just, pressure washed the house to clean it up, to get it ready for paint. And he jumped up on the roof and he pressure washed off the streaks on the roof. And it made the roof look like brand new. He says, man, seems to me that could be an incredible business. And so I started thinking about roof cleaning. And I'm driving home and I'm seeing all of a sudden roofs are dirty. And I'm like Forrest Gump talking about shrimp. I'm like, oh, you can have them scampi, you can have them broiled. And I'm seeing all this opportunity for roof cleaning. And so I got home and my dad's the seed money. I'm a child of privilege. And, my dad gave me some seed money. He went and took me to Sam's and bought me a $500 pressure washer. And then we looked around and back then you had a newspaper and you'd go to the classifieds. Didn't have Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. And he bought me a $1,000 Dodge pickup truck. And poof, I was in the roof cleaning business. And so that $1,500 was the seed money that started everything that you see today. And so I just started pressure washing roofs and realized that was not the way to do it. It just damaged the roofs. And so I started looking at different ways to do it. And one of the things that I did have that I had earned is while I was in high school, I was in the Future Farmers of America, and I had an opportunity to do a vocational degree while I was in high school, earn a vocational degree, and I got a vocational degree in horticulture of all things, plant science, and worked in nurseries. That was kind of, my first job was at a nursery, and I worked at nurseries while I was in high school and a little bit in college. And that was the thing I had done. So I went and I took my knowledge and I said, well, it looks like what's growing on the roof is the same thing as the black tar fungus that grows on a crepe myrtle tree. Seems to me if I can spray copper fungicide on a crepe myrtle tree, why can't I spray copper fungicide up on a roof? And instead of pressure washing it off, we just kill it and control it like pest control. And so I started experimenting with that and trying different concoctions and formulas and pumping them through the pump on the pressure washer and killing the pressure washer and going to Sam's and getting another one. After about the fourth pressure washer, they looked at me and said, son, you're doing something to destroy these pressure washers, aren't you? But I just kind of developed it, and that was 1991, and I was going to be getting married in a few months. In 6 months, I needed to get a business going, so I just kind of put my head down and pulled the plow and made it happen.
So, AC, you didn't always know that you were going to be in home service. Right? I mean, obviously you didn't go to school for that. And really your father kind of got you into that business as far as an idea.
Yeah. So do you remember the song by Dire Straits, Money for Nothing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So, we got to install microwave ovens, custom kitchen delivery. Hey, we got to move these refrigerators. We got to move these color TVs. When that song came out, I think it was like in 87, I thought there was this band called Dire Straits that was stalking my family. That was my family business. That is what my dad did. And so he had a company called Accurate Services, and Montgomery Ward's and McDuff's and Sears, and all the big names back then were his customers. And when somebody would buy a big screen TV, they'd go to Sears, pick it up because they had the big box trucks and they'd deliver it. They bought cabinets for a kitchen. They'd go and they'd deliver it. And many times they'd set it up and install it. If it's a paddle fan or a garbage disposal or a washer or dryer, they took care of all that stuff. And that was one of the businesses that my dad had. So my dad was always in home services. And then my grandfather was in the kitchen appliance business. And actually at one time was a major stockholder in Toastmaster. And before that, he owned a company called Elite Appliances. And he actually invented the pop-up toaster, the electric blender, and the fountain soda machine. And don't worry, there's no big Lockyer fortune or anything else. He got sick and burned it all up and spent it before he died. So, we've got some nice mementos we keep on the shelf, but, some family history pictures and stuff like that. So he was in kind of the home services business. So you would think that I would have got it somewhere in my mind that I was going to be in the home services business. But not really. I mean, the second most influential person that was in my life is another guy. His name is David Coverdale. You guys know who David Coverdale is?
I don't think so, but it sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. He's the lead singer from Whitesnake.
Oh.
Wow. Did not know that one.
So that was the second most influential person in my life. So I always thought I was just gonna, go out on the road. I was in bands and everything else, and I was going to, just one day be a rock and roll singer. And that's what I did for a lot of years. And But no, that didn't happen. It's kind of in my genetics, in our family genetics, to be entrepreneurs. And I am a third generation home services business entrepreneur. And now at 54 years old, proud of it.
Yeah,
Very
no,
cool.
that's quite a story and quite a legacy. Bob, did you come from a whole line of home service guys? Family?
No, I'm first generation. I'm first generation for sure, but it sounds like after 3 generations. So we didn't get the story of Grandpa out of this. So there's probably a story there about how Grandpa started your dad into the home service side of it. So how did that all start?
Well, it really started by my grandfather getting sick. So my grandfather, after he owned Elite Appliances, and then he got bought out by Toastmaster, and then he did Toastmaster for a number of years, he went kind of oddly in a weird direction, and he started doing driftwood furniture, which is actually becoming kind of a craze again now. And so back in the 40s, driftwood furniture was really big. And so some of his big customers, are like Clark Gable and Errol Flynn, and he would build all these gorgeous pieces of furniture for him. He had a showroom in New York, one in Miami, and one in Los Angeles, and did that for a number of years. And little by little, got out of Toastmaster and put his money into driftwood furniture, not realizing it was going to be a flash in the pan fad for about 10 years. And so when that whole thing came to an end, and I think I remember the story it's because they started to make the harvesting of the driftwood off the beaches down in the Florida Keys illegal, and they considered it a natural resource. You couldn't just go and a mahogany tree would erode into a river in Africa, float down the river, go across the ocean, and end up as driftwood in the Florida Keys, and you couldn't pick that up anymore. So it kind of brought all of that to an end, and he went broke and needed to start over. So he went into what he knew, kitchen appliances, and started a kitchen appliance showroom to sell appliances down in Miami, Florida. After a while, he got sick and had some heart issues and had to have heart surgeries. And my grandmother was running the business, and my dad at 15 years old ended up dropping out of school to help my grandmother run the business, and has been literally working, just as retiring finally this year, has been working every day of his life since he was 15 years old, and he is 77 now.
Wow. That's wild.
Mm.
Do you have a superpower? And if so, what is that? And what I mean by superpower is everyone's really good at something, and people recognize that about that individual. What is your superpower, AC?
Well, yeah, I talk about it a little bit in my book, The 5 Keys to Pattern Success, and I tell that story in there, and it really comes from a almost what people would consider a handicap. So I'm clinically diagnosed attention deficit disorder. I was one of the first kids in the country diagnosed back in the 70s because Barry University down in Miami, Florida, was doing a study on kids that had what they called ants in their pants back then. It was by and large boys. And so my next door neighbor was one of the researchers working in that department. And I was a boy that lived next door with ants in my pants. And she said to my parents, hey, I want to bring what my nickname back then was Little Alfie over to the school. And we want to run some tests on Little Alfie. And so they ran some tests, and they diagnosed me with this thing called attention deficit disorder, and did IQ tests and several other things. And you can read all about this in the book. But what it did is it made it very, very difficult for me to pay attention, to do well in school and stuff like that. And so as you age, as you get older, you start to compensate for your weaknesses. And so another thing, a little bit later in life, as a young adult in my early 20s, I got diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, do you know what you get when you cross somebody with OCD and ADD?
A problem?
It's an obsessive that can't pay attention to their projects. So I'm like the 90% king. I can get things all the way up to 90%, and then I get bored and drop it. So, even today, you go around my house is like 90% painted. My truck, my beautiful truck that I have, that you guys, I know, Jim, you've seen it for sure. is 90% done. I'm like the 90% king. But what it did do for me is while I was in business, while I was building my company, my first company, Mallard Systems, and doing all the things that I was doing, I realized a lot of things were falling through the cracks. A lot of things were getting missed. So I started developing business systems. And so my superpower is I have got this incredible innate ability to see a problem in a business. And I get this like weird flashback condition in my head. It's kind of like when I was a kid at the mall. Our mall has like glass walls between the first story and the second story. And if I got close to one of those glass walls, I could see the 10 ways I could die falling through that over or through that glass wall. I can see a problem in a company and I like immediately see the 10 things that they could do to fix it, the processes, the procedures. I can write them all down. I can write a protocol. I can record a video, and I can very quickly go through a company and solve all the problems and highly systemize almost any business I touch. And it's freakish. I've done it in restaurants. I've done it in sportswear companies. I've done it in home service businesses. I've done it for HVAC companies and plumbing companies, all kinds of companies, not even know what they do, walk in the door, and within 2 or 3 weeks, have a very firm grasp of what they do and just start peeling off business system after business system after business system and get them on the straight and narrow. And that's really my superhuman mutant power, so to speak.
Your superpower. AC, do you think that most people in business have a superpower?
I think everybody has a superpower. I think you have to get to the point in your life where you acknowledge or recognize your superpower. I think as human beings, we're too hard on ourselves. And we expect a lot. And we have this fear of letting people down. And everybody has got a skill or a talent that makes them unique, that makes them valuable. And they just got to really discover it. And for me, I had a real kind of disturbing family business breakup when I was 40, but it was the catalyst that got me to stop living, to prove myself to somebody else, and started living just to be my own person, and start digging in and stop trying to be something for somebody else, and just realize, okay, this is my awkward basket of what AC Lockyer is made out of. How am I going to take some things mutant powers, some things handicaps, some things embarrassing moments or tragic mistakes I made? How am I going to take this basket and cobblepot it into how I'm going to turn around and monetize me, and then move forward in my life and prosper? And so, so other people just really need to focus on that. They need to figure out what do they need to do to, find what that power is in their lives.
Yeah. AC, I think you're a lot like most men over 40, 45, or 50, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Where if you're mature enough, and Bob understands this, you get to a point where you don't give a crap what anyone else thinks about you. But when you're young, back when I had hair, like, hey, you like my hair? You like my car? You like my girlfriend? Yeah. Right? I'm going to buy a big house. Oh boy, I got a big job with a corner office. No one really cares, do they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nope.
No, to your point, Jim. Yeah, I don't think anybody does. But, the one thing that I think all men do care about is, legacy, right? We care about how we have made our family proud. And I know, AC, a little bit about your story that we didn't really dive too much into, about your relationship with your dad, how that kind of got destroyed a little bit. I know that going back, who did you want to make more proud, your dad or your grandfather?
Well, I never got a chance to meet my grandfather. He died about 4 years before I was, let's see here, about 5 years before I was born. And that was actually probably part of, I'm so much like my grandfather, and my grandfather made a lot of financial mistakes and stuff like that at the end of his life. And And my dad's life didn't go the way my dad wanted to, because my dad was like a straight A-B student, mostly A's. He was smart. He was doing well in school. He wanted to go on to be a doctor or a surgeon or something like that. He had to drop out of school and take over the family business. So I'm sure if I was in a therapy session with my dad, we would probably figure out that he probably resented his dad in those end of life years because a lot got taken from him. And something that I found out from my grandmother and from other people that knew my grandfather, and even from my dad, is I am a lot like my grandfather. And so I think that created a little bit of strife between my dad and I, is because my dad was probably worried about me going in life, being a dreamer, pursuing things, making bad mistakes, and ending up broke. And thank goodness that has not happened. But, I've always wanted to make my dad happy. Certainly you want to make your wife happy and you want to provide for your family. But for me, the absolute biggest driver I've got in my life is Matthew 25, and wanting to hear that, well done, good and faithful servant. And just take the opportunities and the talents that God has given me and replicate those and bring back a return to God and look at God and say, look, I didn't just bury my talent in the ground. Like a lot of people are today. A lot of people today are like, hey, look, boss, I didn't screw up the car. I didn't wreck the car. I didn't mess anything up. I just kind of got by. I did enough to justify my existence. And we know how that goes in Matthew 25. That's the servant that took the one talent, buried it in the ground. When the master came back, they came back, look, here's your one talent. And the master said, you evil, wicked servant. They said, throw him out where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. I don't want that. Weeping and gnashing of teeth does not sound fun. What I want in life is well done, good and faithful servant. So I live my whole life really now, especially since, after I was 40, I live my whole life now just trying to replicate and return a profit or return more back to God from the opportunities he's given me. And I'm trying to, not in an earning my salvation way, because you can't do that. You can't earn your way to heaven, but out of an appreciation and a love and a thankfulness, to God, work hard every day to glorify him in everything that I do, so that I can hear, well done, good and faithful servant.
Yeah, no, I agree. AC, what's your biggest win in your life, your entire life? What's the single biggest win?
Oh, man. But, there's always the, everybody's going to say the birth of their children, marrying their wife. I mean, I did marry very, very well. And, got a beautiful wife, and she completes me and everything. But if I was to look at accomplishments and say, okay, let's just talk about things that you sought out to compete for and you won. I could talk about business. I can talk about all the things I've done in business, but the thing that I'm absolutely the most proud of was winning the Redfish Tour National Championship. And, watching TV, I got my business back then to the point where it was running itself and I could fish 150 days a year. Wow. Think about that. Golf 150 days a year. Go horseback riding 150 days a year. Go ATV. Whatever your hobby it is, imagine being able to do it anytime you want it. Being able to jump in your RV with your boat on the back and go on 3 and 4 day, 5 day, just fishing vacations 2 to 3 times a month, and just be on the road fishing. And so I'm watching TV one Saturday and they've got the Redfish Tour fishing show on TV. And I'm watching it every single week, looking at these guys fishing it. And the end of it would end with, hey, if you think you're good enough to fish with the pros, well, come out and join us on the tour. Register today. Become a member of the Inshore Fishing Association and come to an open and see if you can qualify. So that's what I did. I went, well, I'm fishing 150 days a year. I'm a competitive person. So, like in business, I don't do what I do for money at all. I am not a money-driven person. I'm a pecking order-driven person. Okay. So I just want to know if I'm the best in the world. It doesn't matter how much money I make. None of that matters to me. Money is just a thing that you spend, you can't take it with you. So, I'm like, well, I think I'm as good as some of these guys on TV. I said, but the only way I'm going to prove it is to go and join the Inshore Fishing Association, pay my membership, go fish a couple opens, qualify for the tour, and then go fish the tour. And that's what I did. And my rookie season, you fish as a 2-person team, because in the redfish world, you're only allowed to bring one fish back to weigh in legally and out in fishing. It's called your cull, or your limit of fish. And so to have a tour, they have to put 2 people in the boat. You fish as a team. I fished with a gentleman named Thresher Clear, a good friend of mine. I was like, hey, I want to do this. Do you want to fish this with me? He said, sure. And so we fished together as a team. He was the poler. He was the guy that snuck up on the fish with a push pole. I was the angler. I was the guy that made the precise cast. Because a lot of times you're fishing for fish you can see. So it's like a cross between fishing and hunting. And in our rookie season, we came and fished the tour and came in and won all the roses, went all the way to the championship and won the national championship. And it was epic. I used to be on TV 8 to 10 times a year, and on fishing shows and on Ranger boat commercials and Solar Bat sunglass commercials, and all kinds of fun stuff back in the day. And that was one of those instances where I just said, something, I think I'm good at that. And it wasn't anything I was familiar with. I'm not like a 3rd generation entrepreneur. People were like, well, sure, you're good at business. Look at you. But fishing against the best in the world, I became the best in the world for 1 year, and it was pretty cool.
That's incredible. Bob, what do you think of that? Is that something you could do? Is there any activity, a sport or pastime, you could go out and win?
Not at that level. I can tell you that's commitment right there. I mean, you can't just you just don't come out of the office and go into a boat and win those type of tournaments. So I mean, you put in a lot of hard work to do that. But so you didn't make it on the big stage. You made it on the big boat stage. So
Right.
So you didn't have your rock career. But if you did have your rock career, what would that look like for you? What was your dream for that?
Oh man, it would have been no good. Certainly not what the Lord would have wanted for me. I mean, oh yeah, it was just, yeah. I mean, the montage, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Was that what you were in it for, though? I mean, what was
Well, no, I'm a musician. I'm a musician, and and again, I want to go out there. And when you write a song and you get up on stage and you perform it and people sing it with you, it's the ultimate form of acceptance, because I'm a songwriter and I'm a front man. I like to be on a stage, and I like to do that front man's job. So when you get up on a stage and it's your song and people are singing it, and you've put your baby out in front of the world and people have accepted it, there's no greater feeling than that. But then there are accoutrements and fringe benefits that come along with that. And yeah,
I'd imagine you got to sing something to your wife, though, right? And that she enjoyed.
Oh man, that is a sore point of contention between my wife and I. She will point out I've never written a song for her, and I haven't. And the reason why is all the songs I ever wrote about girls was after they broke up with me, or I broke up with them, or the relationship ended, or whatever. And so, so they're written out of heartache, and I've not suffered any heartache with her. So I hope I never write a love song about her.
No, not you and the redhead, Karen. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. AC, some of us have regrets. Do you have any regrets at all in your life?
You always hear the saying, if you could do it over, would you? And I think as most of us get older, we start to realize that if we did it over, it may not, it's the butterfly effect, like going back in time. If you move this thing or you move that thing or you change this or that, then all of a sudden you go back and one of your kids never were born. And you're like, hold on, I screwed up. I need to go back and fix that. It's like Back to the Future, and you're trying to get everything right and all. You end up playing a dangerous game having regrets. And so I can't imagine doing my life any differently than what I've done it. The good and the bad, the heartache and the joy. Even the 7 years I didn't talk to my dad. I can't imagine redoing that, even though it was hard and there was some heartache and everything else. And we've reconciled. It gave me some time to become my own person and work on my businesses without, even though he's a tremendous positive influence, I didn't need my daddy's influence anymore. I needed, Tom Ziegler and Howard Partridge and Steve Blythe. And, I could go through a list of 8 or 10 other men that were in my life, Dan Holland and Kevin Hipes and Roy Reed. I could just sit there and name all the people that I took my dad, which was a wonderful, wonderful mentor and person to have in my life to a point. And it gave me, even that horrible breakup, a chance to let some other voices come into my life to shape me. I have absolutely no regrets.
That's fantastic. And that's well said. I would have to agree, because when you think about, and I think it's difficult, like you said, what would happen if I didn't have that argument with my father over the years? Or,
right.
What would happen if I graduated from college and took that job in Illinois? And I don't think we can conceive what could have happened. So I think we're kind of afraid of it. We're like, well, you know what? Life's pretty good. I think I'm just going to keep it as it is.
Yeah. I mean, there's a diversion point in my life where I ran for state president of the Future Farmers of America, and I did not end up getting that. And with that would have came a full ride scholarship to the University of Florida, not Abilene Christian University. Mm-hmm. And because I ended up not going to the University of Florida, I ended up going to Abilene Christian University. Well, then I met the redhead, and so. Yeah. So, you can see those points in your life where you're like, maybe that didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen, but it happened the way it was meant to happen. And if you live a life understanding that there is divine intervention up there, and that, nothing is random, then you learn to appreciate even the little bit of road rash you take from time to time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. So you're an author. It's a great book. By the way, we're going to put your book information in the show notes of this podcast. I'm sure, like most leaders, you're a reader. And if that's the case, what book most influenced you as either a young man or a business owner?
When you emailed me and you sent me the questions and I read that one.
So I gave you a warning, by the way. I gave
you
you
did give me a warning. What first popped into my mind, and it's funny, but it's true. And I kind of said it out loud jokingly, but when I think back to it, I go, man, this is, it had a lot to do with who I am and how I have developed and just bringing products to market and dreaming and all that kind of stuff. Is I was the kid that could not wait for the next Bass Pro Shops catalog to come
out. That's a first, by the way. So that's the book.
Bass Pro Shops catalog. That thing was like this thick. I would have that thing memorized, every lure, who the pros were, what they were using. And that's where my OCD came out. And I would study that catalog, the colors and everything. If I couldn't buy the lure, I would try to make it myself. And it really developed me. I mean, there's books like, one I went ahead and sat here, is this one right here. Oh my gosh. So when I got introduced to Dave Ramsey, and this is Rabbi Daniel Lapin. Yep. When I got introduced to Dave Ramsey, I heard that there's the 5 books that he recommends that you read. All of his staff members have to read those books. And it's like The Go-Getter and The Rhinoceros Success and, Who Moved My Cheese. So I went through all those books and read all those. But he said, Thou Shalt Prosper by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. I mean, guys, look how thick that book is. And it's not big type. It took me over a year. And here's the dirty little secret about me. Is I'm a great reader. I'm like the kid that you get up in front of the classroom to read the book, because I read real well. When I did the audiobook for the 5 Keys to Pattern Success, I did the audiobook myself. That's me reading the book. I've got no problems with reading. I have ants in my pants. I can't sit down and consume books. So everybody thinks, man, AC, you're an author, you're a successful business person, you're a leader. You must be one of those people that just reads a book a month. No, guys, I don't. But I have to force myself to read. You see, your life is, you have this well, and this well is everything that you know, all the experiences you have, all the talents and opportunities and everything else that you have. And it's only so deep. So if you're all the time pulling out of your well to either save your butt or come up with your next product, or, or any of the things that you're trying to accomplish in life, you're drawing out of your own well, that well goes dry really, really quick. And it gets to the point where everything starts looking the same, and you're not getting any new genetics in. And the only way to get new genetics in is to come in and read. You've got to read. You've got to force yourself to do it. You got to schedule it. You got to find that quiet time. A lot of times, the books that we read was my wife and I just sit on the back porch every morning having coffee, and she'll read the book to us out loud. Or if we're driving down the road, traveling, she'll read the book to us out loud. So, it's funny. All of my audiobooks sound like Karen.
They are.
Well,
They are,
audiobooks are amazing. They're amazing for what we do. Busy business guys definitely benefit from those audiobooks, and kudos to you for putting one out. I'm sure that going back to your days at the Bible study ministry and stuff like that, you would have had to be an amazing reader to have accomplished that goal, to make it through that study. So I think maybe that was another blessing in disguise, that you didn't actually have to suffer through that.
Yeah, for sure. I knew I was doomed when I walked into Bible college. And a lot of kids at Bible college, they're like 2nd or 3rd generation, and they've been to Abilene Christian for orientation days and all. I was chasing a girl out there. There was this girl named Laura that I liked, and she was going to school there. So I decided to go to school there. And I decided to become a Bible major. And I had no clue. It's your first day of Greek class was on a Monday. Wednesday's the next class. You had to have the entire Greek alphabet memorized by Wednesday. And guys, I never memorized the Greek alphabet. I was doomed from the start.
Yeah, we all have our traits, our things that we're really good at, or superpowers, or things we're drawn to. And I will give everyone who's watching this just a little bit of advice. Don't try to do things you're not good at. Follow your passion. Right. Do what you do well, and it doesn't care what mom and dad say. I'm just saying that you have to get over that. I've got one more final question before we conclude, because a lot of young people watch the podcast. What advice would you give yourself when you were 20 years old from now? So here you are in your 50s. You can go back in time and you see a 20-year-old AC, and you say, AC, this is kind of weird, but I'm you and I'm a little older. And he's like, whoa, I don't want to look like that. Just kidding. Anyway, what advice are you giving yourself at 20 years old?
Well, okay, so don't be so hard on yourself, but don't listen to all the voices that are out there currently. There's a lot of lies out there. People are telling you that you don't have to work hard, that experiences matter more, and that you should have a job and where your passion is, that you should work from home. And there's a lot of messages out there. And this is going to sound like it's coming from an old fuddy-duddy, but it's coming from a wealthy old fuddy-duddy that can do whatever he wants. And at 35 years old, fished 150 days a year and went out and won a Redfish Tour National Championship as a young guy. Okay. Owned my first $1 million company by the time I was 28, my first multi-million-dollar company by the time I was 30. Okay. So So what I would tell you is it's what I did. I just probably didn't get going quick enough. Just get going quicker. Work your butt off. Get married early. Have your kids young. Find a good church community. Have fewer friends than many friends. Surround yourself with 4 like-minded couples that are going the same direction you are. Relish the time you have on this earth and realize it's going to go like a whisper. And all of the things that you want to do in life, you can do. You can either do them when you're young and broke, or you can do them when I'm 54 years old, and I can go as hard and as long as I did when I was 18. I'm in good shape. I'm diabetic, but I take care of myself. I'm in excellent shape, and I am so glad that I got started early and got a lot of this stuff out of the way, so that at a point in life that I could retire, enjoy myself, bless a lot of people, create a lot of jobs, and go out and feel, create that legacy that you're talking about, but then be around long enough to enjoy it. And I just see so many people getting married later, having kids later, not getting going very quickly. And I'm just going to tell you, I've got some friends that are like that now, that they're 60, 65 years old, and they still have young kids around the house. And they're not going to get to retire till they're 70. And when they retire, they may get 5 to 8 years to be able to go out and do the things that they worked their butt off all their lives to do. I would say, if you're young, get to being successful, making your mark on this world, okay? Blessing other people, so that you can. A quick start now is worth so much more than a calculated start later.
I'm sure that these soft wash systems might have a path for a young guy to even get involved in if they wanted to. Is there a system that you have in place for that?
Oh yeah. I mean, if listen, we make you do an application and take a disc test, and not everybody makes it into soft wash systems, but dadgummit, if you come to soft wash systems, I will make you a multimillionaire. If you throw up your hands and say, AC, have your way with me, I'm going to do everything you say to do. I'm going to follow the plan. I'm going to follow the systems. I'm going to put it into action. I'll be the heat behind the ball. I will follow the model. I will make you a multimillionaire. And it won't take but about 5 years. Wow.
On that note, AC Lockyer, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That's great.
Entrepreneurship, got that inspiration. Yeah, now I'm just doing it. Working on these projects, my ideas I'm pursuing. No matter what the problem, the solution, I'm proving it. Let's talk about it.